I think I've always been a creator, captivated by the magic of transforming nothing into something. Since I was a teenager, I've been drawn to the world of creativity, playing guitar and creating my own songs, to designing my own logos, and eventually crafting my own videos. But lately, I've found myself wanting more. Something to bridge the gap between imagination and reality. I've dreamt of several concepts that I wanted to bring to life, and it's been frustrating to have my visions confined to the inside of my brain. But everything changed when I discovered 3D printing. Suddenly, the boundaries that held me back began to dissolve, and it showed me a new dimension of creativity. To be able to create a physical product from a mere idea was nothing short of magical. And it marked the beginning of a journey that would forever change my approach to the process of creation. What you're looking at right now is a 3D printed coaster that I printed in a material that's called TPU. It is super flexible and basically feels like rubber combined with some sort of sponge when you fill it in. But it's so freaking cool to be able to print whatever you can imagine and just have it in your own home with your own logos and that kind of stuff. When I think about this entire process and how freaking cool it is to be able to do this at home, I get riled up. I get so freaking excited about the entire thing that I just wanna keep doing it. I wanna start designing right now. And if this is your first time here, you probably don't know who I am, but my name is Peter, and I do a lot of YouTube stuff. But you might be looking at this title and say like, well, how did 3D printing change your life? I don't believe that. And I get it, it's a bold statement, but it actually did. This product is called the Upion Prime Gear Tri-Charge. It is a triple battery charger that is available for Sony, Nikon, Canon, Lumix, and Fuji. Link in the description. And this is a product that I have designed that would most likely not be on the market if 3D printers didn't exist. I get a lot of questions from you on Instagram. Which kind of 3D printer that I have? Where do I start? And how does 3D printing work? And I want to try it out. Can you give me some tips? So in this video, I want to talk about all the different things on how I started my journey and what I think is a good place to start and what kind of printer I do recommend and why you should start with that and so on and so forth, so that you can start your own journey in 3D printing and start to create your own products, your own coasters, whatever it is. The possibilities are endless. So one of the first printers that I purchased a little bit more than 2 years ago was called the FlashForge Adventurer 4. There's not really a specific reason as to why I purchased that printer to begin with, but at that time it was the one that I found and I just want to get started. So I got it. It wasn't too expensive either. So I felt like it was a good trade-off of, having something that works that is not too expensive. And it was a great printer. It was kind of easy to use and there was not a lot of tinkering around, even though there was some tinkering around. It was kind of easy to get started with printing simple stuff without having to pay too much attention to it. And the cool thing with just having a 3D printer is that you can go to a website that is called Thingiverse, and then you can search for the kind of 3D print that you want to print, and then you can download that, print it on your own printer, and then you're done. Like you can start downloading multiple different files and multiple different things, and all of a sudden you have these physical products that is coming out of your printer. That for me is entirely wild, because I've told Alexander that we're able to actually print a Pokemon at home. And he went on to tell his grandma, like, we're gonna print Pokemons, grandma. And she's like, oh, the ones on paper that you can fill in yourself? It's one of those things that is very hard to explain until you actually see it being done in a printer like this. But eventually you're gonna come to the point where you feel like you wanna start designing stuff on your own. You want to start creating your own stuff. You want to learn how the process of creating an actual 3D print from scratch works. The program that I am currently using right now is called Autodesk Fusion. It is a freaking amazing program, but also incredibly expensive. It's not something that I recommend to you unless that you're actually making money from using the program in and by itself, or if you have the money to actually spend and dive into the learning process with the program. But it is kind of a steep learning curve. So the program that I started my journey in is called Tinkercad. And it's sort of like a browser-based 3D designer that is very easy and intuitive to start using, I guess you can say. And one of the cool things is that the first prototype, which is this one, of the Tri-Charge, is actually something that I designed in Tinkercad alone. And I think that it is so freaking cool that you could, design something like this just by taking a little bit of measures here and there, and then all of a sudden you have a battery holster. One thing that I didn't think of when I designed this though, is that when you push this in, oh, I don't want to push it all the way down. See, it's very hard to get out. I was so freaking thorough with having the correct measurements of the battery in this design that I didn't think about how I was actually gonna bring the batteries out of the units once they're in. If you look at the final design of the Tri-Charge, you can see that here we did so that the thumb sort of like fits in between here, right? So if I want to press this battery out, I just push my thumb like that. But being able to use Tinkercad and start designing stuff was something that sort of opened up my creativity to, I need to do this more. I need to dive deeper into this. I need to learn how to do different things with 3D printing. And one of my weaknesses is that whenever I dive into something, I want to have the best possible thing that I can afford. And that is where I found this thing that you see here in the back, a brand that is called Bambu Labs. I'm not sponsored by Bambu Labs, nor have they ever sent me any products or reached out or anything like that. I have purchased all my 3D printers myself with my own business money. Just so you know that there's no, sponsored kind of video. I just like this product so much that I want to share it with you. The printer that I got here in the back is called the X1E, which is basically the enterprise version of the cheaper version that's called X1 Carbon. But I do have the X1C in my other studio so that when I leave here, I can print something there. And then when I arrive over there, I can start to evaluate the product that I printed and then send the printer here a new print, so on and so forth, which makes the entire prototyping process very simple for me. So a couple of things that I really like with the entire experience of the Bambu Labs printer that I have tried is how freaking simple it is to get started. 3D printing itself sounds like a very daunting process, and it sounds like you have to have this big chunky thing in your home that is going to make a lot of noise and smell and this and that. But this is actually kind of small. It looks great. And it does make a little bit of a sound, but not too much. The entire process of unboxing is extremely satisfying because the packaging is made so that you have to take everything up, you have to unscrew a couple of parts, and then you have to remove different things, attach stuff, and it just feels like everything's so well thought through. I guess the best comparison that I can give you is that for me, it feels like the Apple of the 3D printing world. The software is just as great. It's so freaking simple to use. They do have an app that is called Bambu Handy, which I really like because you can go in there, you can scroll multiple different models that other people have designed. You can save collections, you can just start a print from your phone, and you can actually see a live feed from your 3D printer to the app of your printer printing thing that you started from your phone. And if you're using a desktop, they have something that's called Maker World, which is basically the same thing that you have in the Bambu Handy app, but online. And you can download each and every model that you can find on the website, open that in Bambu Studio, which is the slicer. And for those of you that have never used a 3D printer before, a slicer is basically something that slices the 3D model and breaks it down into different layers and shows you how the printer is gonna print the model when you have it on the printing plate. One of the tricky things and also fun things with 3D printing is that not everything can be easily printed. So for example, if you were to print, say, the Tri-Charge, but you start with this side down, like so, what happens is that this part is not going to be able to be printed because there's nothing that the thread can be sort of like attached to. So you got to think about everything building from the ground up just like that. And the slicer is actually going to tell you if there's any overhangs, if there's going to be a problem with the print, and if it needs support. And if you need to have support on your product or on your prototype that you're printing, you can just check support, and then it's going to calculate the support on that specific product in and by itself just by you pressing a button. And even though it might sound like a lot of different steps to get started with 3D printing, I do think that Bambu Lab removes all the hassle that I had to begin with. So if you're just starting out right now, highly recommend you to go and check out the Bambu Labs A1, freaking super cool printer that is going to be at an affordable price, and you're going to be able to get some really high quality prints from that printer. So how did 3D printing change my life then? Well, as I told you, this product is something that wouldn't be here without a 3D printer. Because when I started doing this design, I got the idea of how cool would it be to make this charger, but that is like, I can't do that myself, but it did have the design, right? So I took the design and I sent it over to a company that is called UPO, and then so on and so forth. Now we have a physical product. And this is, as of right now, a huge part of my actual business. So to think that someone like me that didn't have any sort of interest in 3D printing 2.5 years ago started to do this design in Tinkercad and then moved on to create an actual product 1.5 years later, that is kind of wild. And I think that if you're thinking about jumping into 3D printing, now is the time. Do give it a go. You're not going to be disappointed. And it's so much freaking fun. There's no boundaries to what you can create. And being able to create something from nothing, that is my personal favorite right there. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got a little bit of answers of where to start and how to begin your own journey. If you did like the video, do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. It's gonna be down here somewhere. And if you want to buy the Tri-Charge, 5 different camera brands, link is in the description. Peter från Sweden is saying goodbye.